A lot of people think that Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, is going to be the Democrats' nominee for president next time around. None other than George Clooney thinks that. He name dropped Wes Moore when he was being interviewed by CNN the other day. So let's take a look at Wes Moore. I happen to live in his state. He's my governor, and he's running for re-election right now. And I can tell you, he doesn't talk to the media. He doesn't give interviews unless it's, a full body massage by George Stephanopoulos or Jake Tapper. He doesn't actually answer tough questions. But check it out. Wes Moore sat for a long form, really important, really combative, hard-hitting interview on this podcast. Wait, I'm sorry, what? Oh, I got that wrong. He did sit for a podcast, but the host was the former chairman of the Democrat National Committee. So yeah, there weren't any tough questions. But he did say something very interesting about why Black voters, specifically Black men, have started to vote for Trump and for Republicans. Take a look at this.
Address the issue. I think we've got to start making sure that this is not something that we're doing because of an electoral strategy, but something that we're doing because we actually care about the prospects, because it is true that we have a justice system that has been targeting and weighted against Black men. We have an education system that has been deliberate about the way that we are criminalizing and punishing Black boys when we're watching the results of our young Black boys continue to downgrade, and we are actually then turning around and blaming the Black boys for their failure. Not the system, not the structure, but the young men, blaming them. We do have a system of employment where we make it more difficult for Black men to be able to enter into the employment market. We do have a system that makes basically every sentence a life sentence, that when someone comes back from incarceration, we make it deeply challenging for them to be able to get public housing, challenging for them to be able to get a student loan, challenging for them to get a home loan, challenging for them to reintegrate with their families. And then we wonder what's going on with the Black men and why they're not voting for us.
Oh, man.
Okay. That's Wes Moore. And as you can imagine, I have a lot to say about the 67 seconds we just watched together. For the purposes of this podcast segment, by the way, I might now and again refer to Wes Moore as Timu Obama. I know people think Hakeem Jeffries is Timu Obama, but no. No one thinks Hakeem Jeffries can be president of the United States. No one's grooming him to be their puppet in the Oval Office. But this guy, oh, hell yeah. He's your Timu Obama. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? And I want you to bear in mind that both men sitting at this table having this conversation are, in fact, Black men, Black Americans, African Americans who were born in this country as Black men, raised in this country, and have now succeeded at a pretty high level. One of them, the host of the show, the chairman of the Democrat National Committee. The other one is now the governor of one of our 50 states, one of our original colonies, Maryland. So these are Black men who have succeeded quite robustly and impressively in this country. Bear that in mind as you hear them talk about what a racist nation this is.
Address the issue. I think we've got to start making sure that this is not something that we're doing because of an electoral strategy, but something that we're doing because we actually care about the prospects.
Okay, let's just be clear here. By saying we, he's talking about Democrats, obviously, because he's one, and the person he's talking to is the former chairman of the party. So he's pointing out the fact that in the past, when they talk about racial issues and racial divisions and systemic racism in our education system and in our criminal justice system, we have only been using it as an electoral strategy to get votes. He's condemning his own party here by admitting that. No one else will point that out because they use the royal we as if it's really just, those crazy racist Republicans and conservatives in this country. But who's we here? Who's we? It's the Democrats. All right, more.
Because it is true that we have a justice system that has been targeting and weighted against Black men. We have an education system that has been deliberate about the way that we are criminalizing and punishing Black boys when we're watching the results of our young black boys continue to downgrade, and we are actually then turning around and blaming the black boys for their failure.
All right. Now, let me just be clear here. He just made quite an accusation that our criminal justice system is targeting black men, targeting them, going after them, saying, let's go find us some black men and prosecute them and throw them in jail. And that our education system is specifically targeting black boys in our schools, punishing them, and then putting them on the path for failure. All right. Now, just so you know, there's nothing new here. The left and Democrats had been saying this for decades, and it was quite robust under the Obama administration as they tried to reformat the way our school systems treated people of color who were getting into trouble. Disciplinary actions were set aside and squelched at the school system level, thanks to the Arnie Duncan, the education secretary under Barack Obama, that allowed, if you broke the rules or got in trouble in school, if you were a person of color, you were granted leniency, because the idea was if you get in trouble at school and you get expelled, then that puts you on the path to prison. It was the schoolroom to cell block sort of revolving door that they claimed occurred, and they were trying to get rid of it. But it is all based on the idea that there is systemic built-in racism in those two systems. Okay. I just got to ask a few questions. I always like to pretend that I'm the podcast host during this interview. So, Governor Moore, let me just pause for a second there. You're the governor of Maryland. Maryland has been dominated by Democrats in the state house and in the state legislature for about 80 years. Once in a while, you get a Republican governor. But if both of those systems exist in your state that you're in charge of right now, who are you going to blame? Who's been in charge? And you talk about the education system. The education system in America is the American Federation of Teachers. It is the National Education Association, the teachers unions, and they have been in bed with your party for 6 decades now. Democrats have been able to call the shots in how our schools are run at the national level, all the way down to most school district levels. So if you're right, and you began this statement by saying it is true that this racism exists in all of these systems, then who's to blame for that? And now you expect us to elect you and the apparatus around you, like those teachers unions, et cetera, who have created these racist systems, because you're the one to fix it? And one other thing, though, let me follow up here. Finish your thought, Governor Moore. I'm sorry for getting in the way there with some facts and logic.
Not the system, not the structure, but the young men.
Yeah.
Blaming them. We do have a system of employment where we make it more difficult for black men to be able to enter into the employment market. We do have a system that makes basically every sentence a life sentence, that when someone comes back from incarceration, we make it deeply challenging for them to be able to get public housing, challenging for them to be able to get a student loan, challenging for them to get a home loan, challenging for them to reintegrate with their families. And then we wonder what's going on with the black men and why they're not voting for us.
I want to tell you, I love at the very end there, he says, and we wonder why they're now voting for Trump. He's stumbled onto the truth there. Because you see, black men are not as stupid and naive and as gullible as these two would like to think that they are. And they have looked at the last several decades of futility, voting for the same party that created these systems, and then that party saying, we're going to fix that system, and then they never actually do anything about it. No, they finally said, you know what? You're lying to me. You've been lying to me. In fact, I reject the premise that these systems are set up against me because of the color of my skin. I think that you want me to believe that, because then that puts me in a hopeless, dependent position where I need you to be my savior. Trump ain't promising to be my savior. He's promising to empower me and let me actually explore my excellence outside of the confines of government structure, trying to tell me who I am and what my limitations are. So yeah, I am going to vote for possibilities and hope and opportunities instead of you, who are asking me to continue to put faith in the government that will fix all of the problems that they have caused, that you are admitting they caused. So yes, he has stumbled on the truth there at the end, although he doesn't quite understand how we got here. But let me also ask this. Both of these men, through Wes Moore's passionate monologue there and Jamie Harrison, the former chairman of the DNC's affirmation, are now stating that this country is hopelessly racist in the criminal justice system and our education system. And Wes Moore just painted out exactly how vicious and horrible that cycle is. Gentlemen, can I please ask you, how did you escape? How did you transcend that racism? What makes you so special? You're both black men. How is it you were not bogged down by those horribly racist systems that don't give a black man a shot in this country, that are in fact stacked up and created specifically to predetermine the failure of a black man? How is it you two men survived this racist system? Are you just that incredible? Are you that transcendently special? Are you God's gift to America that you were so anointed that you were able to transcend these racist systems that were set up for your failure? You must believe that. You must believe that to hear Wes Moore in this charming fashion with his big, magnetic, market researched, Madison Avenue approved smile tell you how racist this country is. You must believe that he is just that incredible and that special and that amazing that he somehow didn't get affected by that. Or you could look at the facts. You see, Wes Moore is an incredibly wealthy man, thanks to an investment firm that he set up and a foundation, the Robin Hood Foundation, I think they call it, although there needs to be a lot of investigative journalism into where all that money came from and how it's been invested, number one. But number two, here's the funny thing. When Wes Moore was a child, he was in trouble, he was failing, and his parents saved him and sent him to a private school where he got a private school education and then ended up having a military career where he joined the United States Army, became an officer, served our country, and was on the right path for being a success in this nation. So you see, there is a path for young black men to actually be just as successful as Wes Moore. And you don't have to have his anointing from God. You don't have to have his transcendent supernatural abilities or anything like that. You need to get out of the public school system that he and his party have created, go to a private school, get a good solid education based in morals and ethics and values, and then begin your career with a disciplined focus like the military provides. And then more often than not, you're going to be on the right path for success in this country. And guess what? That's true of people who aren't black as well. But the real irony here is if you're in Maryland, Wes Moore State, and you want to set up a school choice program so that parents can be empowered to do for their children exactly what Wes Moore's parents were able to do for him, Wes Moore says no. Wes Moore says pound sand. No, you know what? Wes Moore says, go yourself. You're stuck on the plantation that I have created with my friends in the teachers' unions, and you're not going to get a damn chance to do a damn thing. But Wes Moore, my friends, has a magnetic smile and a gleaming bald head, and he is really good at online videos, and he's one of your front runners for 2028. Looking beyond Wes Moore's perspective on where things are right now in this country, let's also focus on why Democrats aren't doing well. Here's a perfect snapshot. In Cincinnati, where the poor couple got beaten by a group of thugs in the middle of the street, and it took forever for the city to respond. And the one admonition that everybody heard from the police chief was, how dare you put videos on social media? Don't show people what happened. That's making our job harder. Where everyone bent over backwards to say that there was any racial element involved in the entire thing, where all the elected officials in Cincinnati are actually giving deference and benefit of the doubt to the perpetrators of that crime instead of the actual victims of the crime. When most Americans, regardless of color, see that and are horrified by it, Here's the mother of one of the people who was arrested on local news. She is being apologized for and protected by Democrats right now because they love pushing those race buttons. Watch.
On the video, he said, "You want to mess with these Russians?" And he smacked the first guy, but it wasn't like they thugs. My child is in school. He had 5 kids. He's on the B honor roll in school. And he's not the thug that they put out in there to be.
Now, if you remember Chief Terry Thiegy.
So my son's not a thug, even though they saw him on video taunting a guy and then punching him in the face. My son is not a thug. And if you are a Democrat elected official right now or somebody who wants to run for office with the D after your name, you have to affirm that message. In fact, you have to say that anyone who calls that man a thug is a racist. And as long as those are the rules that the Democrats have to live by within the confines of their politically correct woke party and the speech police, and having to check all logic and natural instinctive sensibilities at the door before you walk into the room and have a normal conversation with the person, as long as you can't call a thug, they're going to lose. But we've got more evidence as to why they're flailing right now. Check out this leading light for the Democrat Party who engaged in an interview with Politico. The Democrat is a congressperson on the right there, pretending to be a woman, but that in fact is a man. But y'all have to pretend that he's a woman.
Rahm Emanuel was recently asked by Megyn Kelly whether a man could become a woman, and he said no. Gavin Newsom recently said that he believes transgender athletes shouldn't compete in women's sports.
I do believe that those statements have been overcorrections, yes. I don't believe that is the place we need to go.
Rahm Emanuel.
There you go. So Rahm Emanuel, who finally came forth with Megyn Kelly and said, no, a man can't become a woman. He's the problem, you see. He will get smacked down. We knew this was coming. You have to show respect to the man who grows out long hair, puts on a dress, and chemically alters their voice through hormone therapy to try to sound like a woman. And if you can't affirm that that is in fact a genuine woman, despite the you have no place in the Democrat Party. That might be also an indication why they're having trouble. Wes Moore might want to look at that too. And while we're at it, they're getting some free advice from an unlikely place. This comes from J.D. Vance, sitting with our pals over on the Ruthless podcast. He had an opinion about why Democrats are having trouble right now. Maybe Wes Moore should look at this too.
I want to start with probably the most important discussion happening in our country today, which is Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah.
So the Democrats have essentially been like, Sydney Sweeney represents like a Nazi white supremacy issue. Do you think it's that deep? And do you think attacking Sydney Sweeney is how they can win back young males?
Is that a good move?
Yeah, my political advice to the Democrats is continue to tell everybody who thinks Sydney Sweeney is attractive is a Nazi. that appears to be their actual strategy. I mean, it actually reveals something pretty interesting about the Dems, though, which is that you have like a normal all-American beautiful girl doing like a normal jeans ad, right? They're trying to sell jeans to kids in America, and they have managed to so unhinge themselves over this thing. And it's like, you guys, did you learn nothing from the November 2024 election? Like, I actually thought that one of the lessons they might take is we're going to be less crazy. The lesson they have apparently taken is we're going to attack people as Nazis for thinking Sydney Sweeney is beautiful. Great strategy, guys. That's how you're going to win the midterms, especially young American men.
Their course correction lasted about 30 seconds.
That's right. Lasted 30 seconds. Somehow has gotten even crazier. But again, it's just so much of the Democrats is oriented around hostility to basic American life. So you have a pretty girl doing a jeans ad and they can't help but freak out. It reveals a lot more about them than it does us.
Yes, it really does. So Wes Moore is saying, hey, it's no wonder black men aren't voting for us because of all of this racism that he pretends is there, when in fact, going through that litany of racism as he's a successful black man and somehow he transcended it all is actually the reason why black men aren't voting for them. And then you've got the dude dressing up like a woman who says, oh, we can't overcorrect and we can't say that a man can't become a woman. And then at the same time, pine for the days when men were voting for Democrats. Now you've got Sydney Sweeney. She's a Nazi because she's beautiful. And again, they still wonder why men aren't voting for Democrats. And then finally, there's this, a real moment of clarity. Chris Cuomo on his News Nation show now has begun taking phone calls, and that's a good thing. I've often said as a talk radio host or as a podcast streamer like I am now, that wouldn't it be great for you, like on a talk radio show, to be able to call up Anderson Cooper and tell him how wrong he is? Because that's what I do on my radio show. Or like right here, where as you're watching, you can put in our live chat how you disagree, or you can engage in a conversation with other viewers about how they disagree in the comments section. Well, suddenly Chris Cuomo's doing that on his News Nation show, and watch what happened on a recent episode.
I'm not too proud to say that I am wrong about Trump. I'm a proud Democrat.
How so?
And he's done a lot of things. Immigration. I'm happy about what's happening with immigration. I thought the stock market would tank, and I'm pretty happy with my 401k. There's a few things that I just thought things would go wrong, and I'm very happy.
Well, that is big of you to say. It'll probably lose you some friends in this polarized environment that we're in right now. But there's nothing wrong with being happy with results, no matter who gives them to you, right? So I appreciate your candor. Next.
You know, that is an amazing moment, by the way. And hearing this woman say, I'm a Democrat, I didn't vote for Trump, and I'm happy to say that I was wrong because all of these things that he's doing are working. But Chris Cuomo couldn't help himself. Chris Cuomo likes to pretend that he's turned the corner. He's different now that he's not on CNN. And no, he's still a party hack. He's still a Democrat. For God's sake, it's in his blood. His dad was the Democrat governor of New York. His brother was the Democrat governor of New York. He is a Democrat. He just works in the media trying to help the party. And what did he say there? What did he say there? Well, that'll probably lose you some friends. And guess what? That's another reason why Democrats are losing. Because even when this nice old lady, Chrissy from Arizona, calls in and says, gosh, you know, Trump isn't that bad. He was actually good and the things he's doing are good. They immediately get told that they're going to lose friends because of it. Because they're being honest and showing humility and actually acknowledging that, you know what, Trump has actually done some good things. And then they'll wring their hands and lament how we've lost civility in our society whenever politics comes up. Well, there you have it. From Wes Moore to the man dressing like a woman in the Congress, to Sydney Sweeney, to Chris Cuomo dealing with a caller who's just being honest with him on his show. We've got example after example after example why people are no longer wanting to vote for the Democrats. And until they figure all of that out, well, we're going to continue down this road, and we're fine with that. We're really fine with that.